welcome to the 8th episode of 9 to 5 Theatre. Today we are looking at The Caucasian Chalk Circle by Bertolt Brecht. And the first thing I will say about it is, this is a play for grown-ups. It's not a play for boys. And what I mean by that is, it really, really makes you think. It really does make you think. Speaking of the political aspect of the play, the most interesting thing about it is one government collapses because of an uprising, and it is replaced with a new one. And what's interesting about this new government is you don't agree with it. You agree with it more than the previous one, but you are very, very aware of its flaws. And I won't go into too much detail because some of them are very, very touchy subjects. So there's this uprising, and the hierarchy are taken down and they're replaced. But specifically, the judge is replaced by a character called Azdak, who is a hermit. He just lives by himself, he has his own rules, and he lives by his own morals. And you like him. As soon as you meet him, you like him. You're just like, okay, this would be a fun character to play. But very quickly, you start to get different impressions of him, and you don't really know how you stand with him about halfway through his story. And you become very conflicted with him. And Azdak's journey is an interesting one. Okay, so the interesting thing about Azdak is, he seems to be the only character that makes a full circle in terms of his virtuousness, in that he starts off virtuous, fair enough, in his own way, becomes corrupted, again in his own way, but at the end, he starts making the right decisions again. And he simply just walks away. I did spoil it there. He corrects everything and just walks away from it. And it's beautiful. The mechanics of the play are pretty incredible. Anything that I've watched in regards to it is, the actors are playing the scenery and they're playing all the characters, and technically it is a play within a play, but I don't like to think of it that way. I see it like that kind of Shanachie setup. Like the old storyteller in Ireland kind of thing. Everyone's settled down by the fire and then it's slowly coming to life, but it's actually coming to life. I see the storyteller just there and everyone around him, and then he slowly begins the story and everyone just very slowly moves into position and creates the scene, and then it just takes off. And then he can interact with it as much as he wants, or she wants. I did have a weird thought that maybe the storyteller is Michael later in life. Maybe he changed his name. You know, like the storyteller does have a completely different name. What was his name? Probably won't be able to fucking pronounce it now, to be honest. Oh god. Arkady Chidze. Yeah. That's his name. Yeah, I just had this nice thought that perhaps it was Michael telling the story later on. And then we have this story of Grusha. She's the one that takes the young Prince Michael and looks after him when his mother bails on him. One of the most interesting things about this play is that everyone who owns something is a prick to some extent. Grusha takes this young tiny baby, Michael, on this massive journey over a mountain, on foot, leaving a war zone, and she comes to a peasant farmer's place and asks him for milk, and he charges her 3 times the amount. And he's very clear why. He's like, the soldiers just came by and took most of the milk. If you want milk, go ask them. And he's very prickish about it. And it's funny because he's a peasant, but he owns something, and he's a prick. You know, and you see this in anyone that has any kind of claim to anything in this play. They are a prick at some point. It's incredible. Brecht is being fully honest with you in the aspect, or in the idea, that everyone is an asshole at some point. And it's and like you look at Grusha, and you think she's a virtuous character because like she's after taking a child that isn't hers, and she's she's doing everything she can to look after this child. But in that sense, she is also corrupted. She's corrupted by Michael, the child, and she's making rash, sometimes dishonest decisions. Fair enough, it is for his good, but that doesn't make them right. It's so strange. And when you see that, you look at Azdak, who's being a prick as the judge, and you're like, shit, what's wrong with everyone? But like you have to take into account their level of desperation, and what they've gone through, and what they're currently going through, and what they're about to go through, and it truly is an astonishing play. And I mean it when I say it. It's a play for grown-ups. You know, it's one of those plays that just reminds you why you're doing it. You know, it's absolutely incredible. Now, this is a really funny thing that I do. The character Michael, he's more often than not played by a puppet or a shirt. You know, like, it's very rarely done where there's an actual present, like physical human playing Michael. And I always, it's like reading the play, it's like he's the main character. I don't know why I don't know why I think it's important to mention. Michael is the main character in this play. Everything does revolve around him, and he himself is placed in the chalk circle at the end. Like, Grusha is corrupted by him, Azdak is corrupted by greed, the governor's wife is corrupted by power, Simon by jealousy. Each character is corrupted and makes immoral decisions that negatively affect others. So technically speaking, there is no one virtuous character in this play. Do you know what? Even Michael displays bullying behavior when with other children. That was very interesting. You'd think that the child would be the purest one. But no, he's also a bit of a dick sometimes. And you don't hate them for this. Well, you hate some of them, but most of them, you let them away with it, even though you know you shouldn't. It's a very, very interesting play in terms of what it does to your own personal morality or moral compass. Grusha makes the very interesting point at the end where she's explaining that she raised him to be good, raised him to work, raised him to be kind to others. And she stresses that if he were raised by his actual mother, who's the governor's wife, basically he would have been a prick. You know, he wouldn't have known a day's work in his life. He'd be unkind to others and only think of himself. And I don't know if she's commenting on wealth there, or if she's commenting on social status, or if she's commenting on just the way the hierarchies were back then, or now, I don't know. Just like the other ones, I say, if you haven't read this play, It's full of fantastic. It's fantastic from beginning to end, and I can't stress this enough. It really does make you look at the world a little differently. It certainly won't change your perspective for good, but you'll at least look at yourself and your politics and your social standings a little differently. You might have a little bit more patience for others. But there was an extraordinarily interesting character who was just called Peasant. And he's been bedridden. And Grusha says she'll marry him so she can keep the child safe. And there's a lot of talk about people avoiding the draft and this, that, and the other. And as soon as they're actually at the funeral for this guy who technically hasn't died yet, and people are talking about the war having ended, and with that he sits bolt upright, walks into the room, and he's just a fucking bollocks from the get-go. He's a fucking... Whoa. He's such a dick. I want to play him. Dicks are always fun to play, to be honest. It's always fun playing a horrible, despicable person. Anyway, I hope you're well. Thanks for stopping by. Sorry this video was late. Again, I had something in my brain that I needed to get out, and it took priority. Anyway, I'll see you again in 2 weeks' time. Oh, next episode will be on my birthday. I'll be 32. Ugh. Take care. See you later.